Incredible puppy reveals hidden plea to 1 million strangers for dying mom's transformational resilience. Sarah sat in her small living room, the walls adorned with photos capturing moments of laughter and joy, with her son Jake and their spirited puppy, Max. The soft tick of the clock echoed in her ears, a grim reminder of time slipping away. Only weeks had passed since her diagnosis. Terminal cancer. The words felt like a cannonball in her chest, the impact reverberating through every aspect of her life. With each shallow breath, she dreaded the inevitable, leaving Jake without her guidance. Surely no one could replace a mother. "Do I make videos for him?" Sarah whispered to herself, staring at the untouched camera on the table. She envisioned Jake in front of her, wide-eyed and curious, and the idea morphed into a new dread. What if he doesn't understand? Would this recording be a source of comfort, or another painful reminder of her absence? It was an unbearable struggle. Her heart yearned to leave him something, yet the thought of her own vulnerability petrified her. As the days passed, the impulse to preserve memories grew stronger than the tightening dread. Her fingers trembled as she recorded her first entry, sharing mundane stories about Jake's antics and Max's mischievousness. When Max nudged against the camera, his eager eyes seemed to reflect her own silent plea for help. She could feel the weight of his gaze, as if he knew they were tied together in this battle. Then came the unexpected twist. The videos spread like wildfire. The comments flooded in, raging between compassion and judgment. Sarah felt adrenaline coursing through her as she watched view counts jump. Every new like weighed against her intent. Was she sharing too much? Exposing her family to the world's complexities? Crippling anxiety coiled in her gut, battling against a desperate hope that perhaps Jake could still thrive without her. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Every click, every new follower reminded her of the painful scrutiny that came with public attention. Did they truly care, or were they just intrigued by her tragedy? The supportive messages sat strangely next to thinly veiled judgments. Her heart raced with uncertainty as she balanced the desire to reach out to others and the instinct to retreat into safety. Could sharing her story be brave, or would it ultimately hurt Jake more? As Sarah mulled over her next steps, the weight of the world pressed down on her with every wave of anxiety. Questions spiraled in her mind, the guilt of wanting to hold on to some semblance of normalcy while entertaining the thought of letting the world in. The closed circles of friends grew wider, heavy with expectations she dared not voice. They were there, yet the fear of their perceptions gnawed at her insides. She longed to protect Jake from experiencing any stigma attached to her illness. In the gathering twilight, Sarah watched Max. His joyful bark cut through her tension, but her emotional storm swallowed her whole. If she chose this path, was she sealing his future into an unstable narrative? Everything felt like an uphill battle against an unseen tide. With a resolve she didn't quite believe, she prepared for her next video, each moment building a monster of uncertainty that loomed larger than her fading hope. Sarah sat at the desk, the camera positioned just right, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared for her next video. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on her chest, each breath feeling more labored than the last. The flickering light from the screen cast shifting shadows around the room, embodying her struggle to find clarity amid the overwhelming chaos of uncertainty. "Why am I doing this?" she thought, pausing as she made eye contact with her reflection in the camera. It showed a woman caught between vulnerability and the desire to empower her son. She had told herself she would record only the happy moments, tales of childhood innocence, memories infused with love. Yet deep down, she knew that simply glossing over the darker realities would not serve Jake in the long run. He would need to understand the depth of her journey, her fears, and also her resilience. With renewed determination, Sarah pressed the record button, her heart pounding like a drum. "Hey, Jake," she started, forcing a smile that felt brittle. Today we're going to talk about something a little serious. I know things have been different lately. The words poured out, a mix of explanations she struggled to articulate. She spoke of her diagnosis as if describing a distant thunderstorm, somewhat abstract, yet undeniably real. As she continued, the dialogue began to shift. It wasn't merely confessional. It became a conversation about strength, about failure, and the times she had felt utterly lost. She shared the stories of times when she had wished she had been braver, moments that were tinged with sadness but suffused with learning. In her honesty, Sarah felt a flicker of power surge within her. She was capable of turning her narrative from one of despair into one of resilience. Done with the recording, she exhaled sharply, as if shedding a weight that had clung to her since the diagnosis. There was still an edge of anxiety, a gnawing worry about how Jake would receive it. Would he see her as weak? Would he understand her choice to share the full spectrum of her life? Yet beneath that fear was an undeniable sense of liberation. The act of sharing her truth made her feel heard in a world that often felt silent. The next few days unfolded like a whirlwind. The video gained traction, receiving thousands of views and an avalanche of comments. While many offered support, others delivered criticisms that threatened to shake her hard-won confidence. "Why make it public?" one commentator interrogated, questioning her motives, insinuating that she sought pity. Each negative word felt like a speck of grit lodged in her heart, an irritant she was learning to confront with grace. On one particularly challenging evening, after reading yet another judgmental comment, she found herself pacing the living room, Max following closely at her heels. The air was thick with frustration, and she was left grappling with the duality of her journey, navigating the public eye while protecting the intimate fragments of her life with Jake. The clock chimed softly, and with each toll, a tick of realization struck her. Sharing her struggle was not just for others, it was her own catharsis. She set her resolve anew. Each comment, whether kind or critical, was an invitation to reflect deeper on her intentions. It forced her to confront not only how she viewed her illness, but also the narrative she wanted to craft. She was not just broadcasting her pain, she was claiming her story, one that could illustrate resilience amid the creases of heartache. As she uploaded her latest video, the previous doubts still lingered, but they now danced alongside a burgeoning strength. "Tomorrow, let's talk about fear," she typed in the description, an honesty that felt raw and powerful. She sensed there would be more to navigate, and with every word she shared, Sarah uncovered aspects of herself she had long buried. She held her breath as she hit publish, and in that instant, a new journey loomed ahead filled with potential growth and new challenges. The moment of truth was drawing near. She would have to face the voices both in her head and the loud ones outside. Would she find herself stumbling through the shadows, or would she emerge with an inspiring clarity? The morning light streamed into Sarah's room, revealing the clutter on her desk. A few notebooks filled with thoughts, a haphazard stack of bills, and her camera, still holding the ghost of the most recent recording. Today was a new day, but the weight of expectation loomed larger. As she prepared for her next video, Sarah couldn't shake the lingering anxiety from the last upload. Would her audience truly understand her? The negative comments kept replaying in her mind, taunting her confidence. Each phrase felt like a pebble in her shoe, small but annoying enough to disrupt her progress. She clawed at those doubts, attempting to carve a space for more uplifting thoughts. Yet, a shift was brewing within her. She recognized, through the judgment and the encouragement alike, that each interaction revealed layers of dependability and courage she hadn't fully acknowledged before. There was strength in authenticity, she reminded herself. Perhaps revealing her challenges with fear could resonate on a deeper level. Perhaps it could empower other women feeling lost in their own battles. She sighed heavily, adjusting her camera. Today, she told herself, we're going deeper. As the record button lit up, her heart raced, but she felt a sense of purpose igniting something within. "Hey everyone," she began, her voice steadier than before. "Today we're going to talk about fear, something that has plagued me for a long time." Sarah poured her heart into this recording, peeling back the layers of fear that had governed her life. Fears of inadequacy as a mother, of vulnerability in public, and of the unknown future that disease brought. She shared not only her emotional turmoil, but also strategies she had begun to cultivate in response to that fear. Moments spent journaling late at night, practicing positive affirmations, and even breathing exercises to ground herself. In those moments of raw honesty, she found clarity she hadn't anticipated. Talking through her fears transformed them into stepping stones rather than barriers. Each word crystallized her experience, creating a narrative that was both personal and universal. It was no longer just about her. It became about collective resilience, an invitation for others to share their burdens too. Once she wrapped up the session, she felt lighter, as if the claustrophobic grasp of fear had loosened its hold on her chest. She hit publish, and watched the number of views increase steadily throughout the day. Comments flooded in, some affirming her bravery, while others still harbored skepticism. One particular user, under the guise of anonymity, accused her of manipulative behavior, spinning her illness into a weapon for views. For a moment, the comment shattered her renewed confidence. But something shifted within. It was no longer about crafting the perfect narrative to appease strangers. It was about the truth of her journey and the courage to own it, regardless of perception. That night, a thought struck her as she was getting ready for bed. Despite the turbulence of social media scrutiny, this was an opportunity to choose her own narrative actively, a prospect that ignited a fierce determination. What if she could turn her channel into a safe space for dialogues around fear and strength? What if this place could become a hub for shared vulnerabilities instead of just her own? As she lay in bed, anticipation coursed through her veins. There was work to do to bring this plan to fruition, but she felt a renewed sense of purpose swelling inside her. She couldn't ignore it. Those raw, unrefined stories of struggle and triumph were begging to be told. The next day brought a pivotal moment. She would not only discuss her fears, but she would also invite her viewers to share theirs, crafting a collaborative narrative that extended beyond herself. As the excitement washed over her, she envisioned a vibrant community slowly taking shape. A singular idea emerged amidst the quiet. It was time to invite her audience into this journey fully, a beckoning to explore that profound desire for connection in their shared struggles. But in doing so, she could also anticipate potential backlash. Just as that thought settled in her mind, a new wave of doubt crashed over her. Would they feel betrayed if she revealed such an intimate invitation? The clock's ticking seemed to remind her of the stakes. Holding her breath, Sarah realized the stakes were on the precipice of transforming her platform from a solitary experience to a collective voyage of healing. Would stepping forward into this idyllic unknown fortify her resolve, or would it deepen the chaos swirling just under the surface? The next morning was clouded, a metaphor for the uncertainty swirling within Sarah. Despite her determination from the night before, she wrestled with the decision to widen the scope of her channel. Would presenting herself as a facilitator for shared experiences empower others, or would it leave her even more exposed to criticism? She settled behind her laptop, staring at the blank page where her next video script should be. With the camera staring back at her like an unblinking eye, inspiration eluded her. Each keystroke felt heavy, burdened by the weight of her intention. Should she reveal her plan to transform the platform into a space for collaborative storytelling? Was she ready to relinquish control over her narrative? Sarah took a deep breath and sought solace in her notebook filled with thoughts. Flipping through the pages, she found remnants of her past, ideas for content that had at one time excited her. With renewed focus, she began jotting down an outline that would share her vision, each bullet point a therapeutic release. By the time she had finished, she felt recharged, the tension easing off her shoulders. The camera turned on again, shaking with a nervous energy as she took her place. "Hey everyone," she started, her once faltering voice now steady and assertive. "Today, I want to invite you all on this path with me." With each word, she articulated a clear expectation. This was to be a haven for stories of struggle and resilience. She detailed her intention to create a series called Facing Fear Together, where she would share her journey while inviting others to contribute their own stories. It felt like stepping into an unknown but exhilarating territory, akin to a tightrope walk above the abyss. As she spoke, a spark ignited within her. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about forging a mutual understanding. With this intention, the potential backlash transformed from a fearsome monster into a manageable challenge. She imagined herself nurturing a community fueled by shared vulnerabilities. In that moment, she understood that true strength comes from the collective, the symbiotic relationship between storyteller and audience. After the video concluded, she hesitated before clicking publish. Her finger lingered over the mouse, caught between trepidation and hope. Then, she exhaled, emboldened by the notion that every shared experience was a step toward liberation. Not just for her but for others grappling with the same fears. Hitting publish sent a wave of exhilaration through her veins. Yet the excitement quickly gave way to anxiety. What if her audience rejected the idea as insincere? Would they accuse her of co-opting their stories for personal gain? A swirl of negative comments flashed across her mind, each threatening to dismantle the bridge she was trying to build. That evening, Sarah watched the view count climb slowly. Notifications dinged with incoming comments, and each one felt like a tiny electric shock. Instead of dread, she found herself scrolling curiously. Some watched with caution, but others expressed eagerness to share their experiences. Encouragement came in waves, washing over her insecurities. But then, amidst a torrent of kind remarks, she spotted a familiar username, the anonymous commenter who had tormented her before. "How can you open up about fear when you're just using it as another gimmick?" it read. Breath hitching, Sarah felt the all-too-familiar sting. Why did it always come back to this? A profound realization struck her. Accepting vulnerability meant facing criticism, but it also meant recognizing that authenticity would resonate with those truly ready to engage. Her heart thudded with renewed determination. This was her moment to confront the critic head-on, internally and externally. Rather than retreating into defensiveness, she could choose to lean into the discomfort, using the negativity as a catalyst for growth. The stakes were rising, and so was her resolve. Tomorrow, she would delve deeper into how this journey drew both applause and dissent. The true test lay ahead. Could she find courage and authenticity, despite the shadows lurking behind their virtual walls? Sarah couldn't help but feel a thrilling anticipation building. She was on the verge of reckoning with herself and her audience. Would she emerge transformed, or would fear continue to shackle her growth? The next day, Sarah woke to a haze of uncertainty that seemed to blanket her thoughts. Her adventure into shared storytelling weighed heavily on her, and the lingering sting from last night's comment haunted her. It echoed in her mind, creating a baseline of self-doubt that was hard to shake. But as she brewed her morning coffee, a different realization struck her. This was her choice, her path. The critic's voice would not define her journey. She could redefine it instead. Settling again in front of her laptop, she avoided the blank screen for just a moment longer, choosing to prioritize clarity. She needed to devise a strategy that would not only address potential backlashes, but also solidify her vision. The tension sparked ideas, fueling her resolve to explore deeper themes in her content, while reinforcing her intent to invite genuine stories. She began drafting a response to the negative feedback, intending it to be part of her next video. "Hey everyone," she thought, crafting her words in her mind. "Today I want to talk about vulnerability and backlash." The idea of addressing fear and criticism openly was both liberating and intimidating. It would serve as an opportunity to directly confront skepticism while reinforcing the foundation of her series. As she wrote, clarity emerged. Each point laid out strategies for engaging with her audience. How could she frame her upcoming videos to invite participation while cultivating a haven for shared experiences? What rules of engagement would help maintain a civil discourse, even amidst dissent? Sarah jotted down principles of respect, empathy, and openness, recognizing that fostering understanding was just as critical as sharing her own journey. When ready, she flipped the camera on once more, the bright light contrasting sharply with the darker thoughts that had clouded her mind. "Today, I want to explore what it means to be vulnerable," she said, her voice rich with conviction. Yes, opening ourselves up to the world can be terrifying, especially when there's the risk of criticism. Sarah engaged the camera like an ally. "I received some feedback that left me questioning my intentions, but I believe that true dialogue requires honesty, and I want to demonstrate transparency, not just to earn your trust, but to show that I too share the struggle." With each word, Sarah felt the weight lifting, as if she were shedding layers of fear. She spoke about the necessity of sharing not only triumphs, but also failures, using this journey to evolve her understanding of vulnerability. As her video unfolded, she offered a call to action, an invitation to her viewers to record and submit their stories as a means to cultivate authentic conversation. In that moment, she realized it wasn't just about them, it was also about her growth. She needed to interact with her viewers deeply, to acknowledge that while she might provoke disagreement, that could motivate even deeper connections. After uploading the video, she felt an exhilarating rush. The combination of excitement and the pulse of fear ignited her focus. Her phone pinged as comments poured in, affirmations, questions, and some skepticism. But reading them, she discovered herself responding, digging into conversations and clarifying any misunderstandings. Amidst the buzzing notifications, a thought crystallized within her. This was an essential part of her evolution. There would always be critics, but it was the engagement, the push and pull of differing opinions, that fostered growth, not just for her, but for everyone involved. That night before bed, her heart brimmed with anticipation. She had taken a significant step, but the road ahead remained daunting. What would happen when she began to gather the stories of others? Would they be willing to share their vulnerabilities? What lessons awaited her in other people's experiences? With those questions looming, Sarah drifted to sleep, knowing she had merely scratched the surface of an unexpected journey ahead. How would this adventure reshape her understanding of community and connection? The next day promised to be about more than just her story. It would be about connecting through the narratives of many, revealing layers she had yet to uncover. Sarah's heart raced as she read through the comments streaming across her screen in real time. Some of her viewers were sharing their own stories of vulnerability, echoing her own themes of fear and honesty. However, the undercurrent of disbelief from others haunted her. Their skepticism was a reminder of what was at stake. Each notification represented a potential engagement, leading her closer to the deeper connections she sought. But they also shrouded her in doubt. She needed to harness this energy constructively. With her mind racing, she pulled out a notepad, determined to create a roadmap for her next video. Ideas flowed, many fragments intertwining like threads of a fabric yet to be fully woven. She planned to share not just her perspective, but also integrate snippets of the stories shared by her viewers. This approach would mean curating submissions, finding narratives that aligned with her vision while respecting the gravity of each tale shared. Her resolve hardened as she outlined her next priorities. It was time to establish clarity, not just in her content, but also in her framework of intention. Her internal dialogue took on an analytical tone. The films she admired often captured the essence of human experience by showcasing diverse perspectives. Could she similarly curate a mosaic from her viewers' stories, creating a platform that shed light on shared struggles? She drafted a brief proposal of guidelines for submissions: authenticity over perfection, vulnerability over facade. As she mapped out her strategy, a creeping anxiety surfaced again. What if she didn't convey their stories as intended? Would she inadvertently exploit their pain for views? That fear compelled her to reach out to a mentor from her early days in content creation, a producer who had navigated similar waters. After a few minutes of deliberation, she made the call, trusting in the wisdom of experience. "I want to do this right," she explained when the call connected. "I want their stories to matter, to resonate, but I'm nervous about crossing lines." Her mentor listened intently, offering insights that both calmed and ignited her ambition. "Sarah, the goal is to facilitate conversations that matter, not just to your viewers, but also for your own growth. Set boundaries, and don't shy away from your own voice. Make it clear that you're learning alongside them. Openness fosters engagement." That advice resonated deeply. When they ended the call, Sarah felt lighter, bolstered by clarity. She turned back to her notes and added a new section: representation and sensitivity. She would use her platform to hold space for her audience, not just as a leader, but as a fellow traveler. With the excitement mounting again, Sarah quickly drafted her call for submissions, inviting her viewers to express their stories without judgment. She intentionally crafted language that underscored the collaborative nature she desired. Later that evening, she published the invitation. Almost immediately, responses began trickling in, a mix of anticipation and vulnerability. Her heart pounded as she witnessed the rawness laid bare in the comments. Each narrative was laced with a truth she had hardly contemplated before. But even among this surge of connection and compassion, one comment stood out. A vague yet compelling plea that suggested a deeper hidden pain, far beyond what she had expected. "This matters more than you know," it read, signed off by a username she had seen several times. Curiosity ignited, and it felt like a thread calling her closer under the surface of the discussions. What story lay behind those cryptic words? Suddenly, her path felt more intricate than ever. She realized this was about more than just storytelling. It held the weight of potential transformation not only for her, but also for the lives of those who dared to open up in the comments section. With determination settling over her, Sarah's mind wrestled with the implications. She was embarking on a dual journey, her own growth and the cultivation of others. As the night unfolded, one unresolved thought lingered. How deeply would they trust her to share their vulnerabilities? The search for answers beckoned, urging her toward an exploration that held the promise of revelation. Sarah stared at the screen, letting the waves of response wash over her. The profound connection she craved pulsated at her fingertips, yet the veiled pain behind that one haunting comment nagged at her mind. What could compel someone to reveal so little while hinting at so much? She resolved to dive deeper, and not just for her viewers' sake, but for her own growth as well. Determined, she sketched a rough outline of her planned video content, mentally constructing a narrative of shared vulnerability. It was a tightrope act, balancing her desire for authenticity while honoring the pain others wore like armor. As she filled out her notes, she allowed herself to wonder what it might be like to transform her own fears into strength through the stories of others. This wasn't merely about curating. This was about inviting others to reveal parts of themselves she too was hesitant to show. Yet doubt curled around her like tendrils of fog. Was she even capable of directing such a dialogue? Would she falter when it came time to present? These thoughts threatened to hold her back, but instead, she channeled that fear into action. Sarah decided to schedule live sessions where she could engage with her audience, confront those questions directly, and make herself equally vulnerable. If they were opening up, she could too. The connection could only deepen that way. On a whim, she wrote down a personal story, one that had always been too painful to share. It was about losing her mother, how grief had shaped her identity and motivated her to seek connection through her content. That raw memory stirred something deep within her, reminding her why she started this journey in the first place. Sharing it could create a bridge, drawing her community together despite the chasm of their differing experiences. The next morning, as the sun poured through her window, she prepared for the live session with trepidation. The comments were already rolling in, filled with excitement and nervous anticipation. Sarah took a breath, feeling the intimate weight of each viewer present. This wasn't merely a video, it was a safe space she aimed to cultivate. After a few introductory comments, she decided to take the plunge. "I want to talk to you about something I've never shared before." The words came out shakier than she anticipated, but she pressed on, her story unfolding like a gentle wave of emotion that she released to those watching. She spoke about the fear that had once paralyzed her, about feeling alone in her grief, and the light she eventually found not only in herself, but through the connection she forged online. As she exposed her vulnerabilities, something incredible began to happen. The chat transformed into a supportive barrage of stories echoing her sentiments. Viewers shared their struggles, their losses, and their upsurges. It became an outpouring of truth, much more than she had envisioned. For a moment, their shared pain felt like a unifying presence. Yet just as momentum surged, another comment popped up on the screen. "I know your pain, but mine goes deeper." That same username struck a chord again, tugging at her curiosity. What was this deeper pain hiding in the shadows? With her breath slightly caught in her throat, Sarah realized that she stood on the brink of something transformative, not only for her audience but for herself too. She felt compelled to seek this person out, to create a space for them where they could speak freely and openly. The question loomed large over her intentions. How far was she willing to go to illuminate those hidden burdens? She stared at the screen, finding herself one decision away from a deeper layer of honesty and communion. What revelations awaited her should she choose to pursue this? The answer felt tantalizingly close yet shrouded in necessary risk. Sarah couldn't shake the knot forming in her chest as she reread that comment. I know your pain, but mine goes deeper. There were layers to the words, a depth of anguish that struck her on a visceral level. Who was this person? What experiences haunted them? Was she ready to explore the shadows of someone else's grief when she was still grappling with her own? Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, torn between the allure of inquiry and the weight of potential exposure. How could she delve into another's pain when she barely understood her own? Yet, the thought of allowing this conversation to slip away ignited a flicker of urgency within her. She forced herself to take a breath, steadying her pulse, even as her heart raced. Just a message, she whispered stubbornly to herself. What could it hurt? Before she knew it, she had navigated to the user's profile and sent a direct message. I'd love to hear your story if you're open to sharing. We can talk privately. It felt almost reckless, but there was no turning back now. She had crossed the threshold. The minutes felt like hours as she waited for a response, her mind reeling with possibilities. What if this person didn't respond? Or worse, what if they did? The gravity of her choice weighed heavily on her conscience, intertwining with guilt and curiosity in a dizzying dance. Then, a ping jolted her out of her thoughts. The notification glowed at her through the screen. With hesitant fingers, she clicked to open the reply. It was succinct. I'll share, but only if you promise to listen without judgment. A warmth spread through Sarah's chest as she typed back, assuring them that she was there to listen. They agreed to a session later that evening. As the day progressed, Sarah turned inward, engaging in a delicate dance with her feelings. Did she possess the skills necessary to navigate this conversation? What if she stumbled? Every self-doubt screamed at her to abort this mission. And yet, she recognized the rustling tether of determination. Each moment leading up to the meeting became a reflective exercise. Perhaps this was the growth she so eagerly sought. When evening fell, an air of anticipation accompanied the soft glow of her computer screen. She prepared a cozy corner in her workspace, ensuring it felt inviting yet secure, essential for the emotional gravity she anticipated. Arranging a warm cup of tea by her side, she took a moment to ground herself. This was more than just a conversation. It was the potential genesis of understanding, of shared healing. As they connected via video, she was drawn into the other person's world. The moment she saw their face, a flicker of vulnerability pierced the screen. They started to speak, and their words flowed, a torrent of expression, an unveiling that could only be described as both melancholic and beautiful. Sarah listened, absorbing every heartfelt detail, feeling their pain resonate with her own. Something shifted inside her during that conversation. A new comprehension sparked. The raw authenticity, the admission of grief, and the tentative hope they each were trying to grasp became a mirror for her fears, her dreams, and her struggles. This dialogue transcended mere interaction. It evolved into a sacred duet of affliction and empathy. By the end, both of them had placed their burdens on the table, though it was only the beginning of a long trek towards healing. Sarah could feel a growing bond forged through this experience. Perhaps by confronting another's pain, she was ultimately confronting her own. But as they said their goodbyes, a chilling realization settled in. Two searchers venturing into the dark together could easily lose their way. Would their budding connection offer solace, or would it lead to unforeseen complications? And as the screen faded to black, her thoughts reverberated. Had they merely peeled back layers, or had they unleashed something bolder, more chaotic, waiting to rise? Each step forward now felt predicated on that disturbing question. How deep could she really go before losing herself completely? The forthcoming chapter of her journey loomed ominously on the horizon, cloaked in uncertainty, and the tantalizing prospect of an unexpected test. The ringing of her phone broke Sarah's reverie, pulling her from the contemplation of the earlier conversation and the raw emotions it had unearthed. It was a message from her newfound connection. "Are you okay? I felt a silence from you and wanted to check in." An unexpected warmth stirred as she read the words, tinged with concern. It occurred to her then that she was not the only one navigating uncharted emotional waters. Here was someone willing to extend their hand amidst shared grief, and it uncovered a dimension of vulnerability she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge. But another part of her recoiled. This sudden sense of responsibility for another's feelings unsettled her. Wasn't it enough that they had shared their burden? Did she have the capacity to guide someone else when she herself was still figuring out her footing? The weight of potential failure pressed in, insistent and suffocating. "Just breathe," she thought, glancing out the window. The city lights twinkled in the growing dusk, as if signaling that the beauty of life thrived alongside its cruelties. An idea sparked. Perhaps, instead of navigating these dark waters alone, they could forge a path together. Thus, she decided to reply. She typed carefully, weighing every word. "I'm here, really just reflecting on what we shared. It struck a chord with me. How about we talk again soon?" As her finger hovered over the send button, an uneasiness rippled within her. But she pressed it, launching herself deeper into emotional engagement. There was something captivating in this connection, even amid the trepidation. She was awakening to her own limits, discovering how to balance empathy with her fear of vulnerability. The next day unraveled like a tapestry, colors woven with anticipation. Sarah awoke with the dawning realization that this newfound bond could indeed lead to personal growth, both for her and the stranger. She envisioned that their conversations might transform into a safe haven where both could unpack their emotions without fear of judgment. Yet, as the sunlight streamed through her window, she faced a daunting realization. By sharing in another's grief, did she risk her own healing progress? Was she willing to take on their pain, potentially at the expense of her own stability? These questions consumed her, drawing her into an introspective labyrinth. Determined to navigate this treacherous ground, she committed to self-care. Today wasn't merely about engagement, it was about maintaining her mental equilibrium while embarking on this shared journey. She planned to journal her thoughts, to document the fears that interwove with her sense of duty. But would writing suffice if deeper emotions surged? As she opened the journal, she began to catalog everything. The fears of crossing boundaries loomed large. As she filled pages, each word began to reveal something new about herself. How she had held back in past relationships, fearing the weight of another's sorrow like an anchor dragging her deeper into despair. The afternoon waned into early evening, and Sarah prepared for their next video chat. The air buzzed with both excitement and anxiety. Would this conversation illuminate pathways toward healing, or would it entangle them further? With her heart drumming a rhythmic echo of uncertainty, Sarah glanced at her reflection in the screen as she connected with her companion. "Are you ready?" she whispered, realizing that her own answer was not yet clear. Perhaps in the confrontation of their collective grief, they would unlock hidden competencies waiting to emerge. Their faces appeared, and the camera picked up their shared hesitation, a mirroring of previous chasms now filled with potential. They were both explorers driven by the need for understanding, and together they ventured forth into uncharted emotional territory, questioning if they could truly bear the weight of each other's souls. But deep down, one pressing question loomed. What if this dance with vulnerability led her further into the shadows than she could imagine? As she braced for their words to unfold, Sarah realized this journey could end in self-discovery or disarray. Would she rise from the depths or would she become swept away in waves neither of them saw coming? In the wake of their shared conversations, Sarah began to grasp the profound journey she undertook. Not just her own, but the collaboration with her new connection. After each video call, she felt an unsettling yet exhilarating clarity emerging about herself and the nature of vulnerability. They ventured into complex emotional landscapes, discussing not only fears, but the resilience cultivated through hardship. With every shared truth, Sarah felt a compelling shift. The weight of her worries began to lighten, giving way to a blossoming confidence. One morning, amid a flurry of thoughts, a breakthrough surged. What if my journey through vulnerability isn't just for me? She pondered aloud. Maybe this transformation can empower my viewers in ways I never imagined. The realization ignited an idea, a live event titled Resilience in Real Time, a safe space for people to share their stories while also listening to others. This would be a platform not solely for her, but a nurturing ground for mutual growth. As plans took shape, Sarah was invigorated. She fleshed out logistics, what to say, how to encourage participation, and how to manifest an atmosphere of openness. This was more than a video. It was a commitment to acknowledge their collective strength amid challenges. Never before had she felt so aligned with a purpose. A week later, as she sat at her desk, the screen glowed bright with activity, a mosaic of faces eager for connection. The anticipation crackled in the air, and she remembered fleeting moments of self-doubt from the past. Were they still creeping at the edges of her confidence? Today, however, they transformed into fuel instead of fear. She recognized the profound growth that surfaced from the depths of their discussions. The event commenced, and Sarah opened by sharing her own story of transformation. She spoke of navigating public judgment while revealing her heart. As she poured vulnerability into the space, she witnessed thousands inspired to join her. Stories blossomed from the audience, some heartbreaking, others illuminating the power of perseverance. They transformed personal pain into shared strength, a testimony to the untamed resilience within them. As the session unfolded, another reminder emerged. This was not only about her. It was a celebration of their collective power to uplift and heal. Sarah embraced the robust narratives shared within the virtual room, and the dialogues reshaped her understanding of support and connection. As people reached out to each other in the comments, Sarah realized this space had become a beacon of hope for many. Thoughts of doubt and inadequacy faded, replaced by a solid sense of purpose and belonging. Days and weeks passed, and feedback streamed into her inbox. "Thank you for creating this space," a viewer expressed. "It helped me finally voice my struggles." Gratitude flourished in every correspondence, and with each message, she stood tall. The fear that once held her captive became a mere whisper, overshadowed by the resonance of genuine recognition and growth. Her leadership no longer felt burdensome. It was invigorating. And then one evening, another profound realization dawned on her. Sarah set her sights on rekindling her connection with Jake. She approached him with a gratitude-laden heart. "How about we create something together?" she suggested, her excitement palpable. The chance to bond through creativity sparked a deep joy. They decided to whip up a playful video, highlighting both Max's antics and the lessons learned about resilience. As they recorded, the laughter filled their home like the sun's warm embrace. Jake beamed, an undeniable light reflecting in his eyes. "Let's make it fun, Mom," he chimed, capturing the essence of pure childhood joy. That moment held a transformative power. Sarah's heart swelled with happiness, and the clarity of her mission solidified further. She would not only empower herself and others, she would cultivate a legacy of encouragement for Jake, a roadmap of resilience he could carry forward. Eventually, her platform flourished and expanded, twinkling like stars in the night sky, casting radiance on those searching for solace. Sarah didn't just share a story anymore. She demonstrated growth, guiding viewers as a source of genuine connection. She became a leader with a solid confidence, making strides toward self-acceptance in a way that shone brightly for all. And now that she had embraced her strength, Sarah stood on the precipice of something larger. The journey culminated, but it was also an invitation for others to join, ready to sculpt their healing through vulnerability, together. If stories of personal triumph resonate with you and remain a source of inspiration, now is the moment to subscribe immediately to the channel. You need to stay connected to witness these exclusive emotional journeys. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this message of transformation far and wide. Comment your reactions and theories about this heart-stirring conclusion as we shape these narratives together. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this transformative resolution. It's time to take action and true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.